Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle, and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I wrapped up the month of May, but I did realize there were certain things I forgot to talk about. So, in this episode, I am going to mention the things that I forgot to mention. Yeah, here it goes. Okay, so the first thing I forgot to mention was that during my conversation with Esther, I forgot to mention this. During my conversation with Esther, I remember saying to her that, what was I saying? I remember saying that basically just talking about how come all this like backdoor conversations were happening behind my back that we're friends. I remember saying we are friends. And then I remember Esther telling me, saying this to me. She says, Um, actually, Adriel, like we weren't friends. I'm like, what? We weren't friends? She was like, no, that actually we started getting closer when you started living with Ruth. Then I'm like, but Esther, I thought we were friends. Like you dropped me at the airport in 2019 when I was going to LA. We hung out. She was like, we weren't friends. That she said me and Ruth, like, we were friends, but I got closer to you after you lived at Ruth's place. So I was kind of confused because y'all, to be honest, I really thought that 2017, 2018, 2019, me and Esther were building a friendship. So I kind of like saw her as a friend. Now, were we super close? No, I do believe her and Ruth were super close, were friends. And Ruth and Esther knew each other way before they knew me. So, yeah, she was right in the sense that her and Ruth were friends. But I thought we were building a friendship, even though we weren't super, super close. So, to hear her say that we weren't friends, back in 2017, 2018, 2019, and that we became closer after I was living with Ruth, I was kind of shocked because I really did think that she saw me as a friend. And another thing, too, is like, if we weren't friends, if you didn't see me as a friend, why did you feel comfortable having me in your apartment? It was just weird to me. That whole conversation was weird, but I would say this, y'all. As time goes by, things get weirder between me, Esther, and Ruth. Well, I sense things got weirder. Maybe not for them. Yeah, that was the first thing I forgot to mention. Now, the second thing I forgot to mention back in 2020, this was November. Yeah, so towards the end of November, right before Thanksgiving, I remember being in my apartment one day and I had plans on heading out to go to the grocery store. But before heading out, I was in my bedroom and I remember the song Mirrors by Justin Timberlake was in my head. It was in my head, and just this thought of listen to Mirrors, listen to the song, listen to the song. It was just in my mind to listen to that song. Now, here's the thing, I'm not a big Justin Timberlake fan, so I was kind of surprised as to why that song was in my head. But just this thought of listen to that song, listen to that song. So I listened to Mirrors by Justin Timberlake, and as I was listening to it, I'm like, oh my goodness, the lyrics, it was speaking to me. It felt like the song was what God was going to do between me and Brandon. Like me and Brandon were going to mirror each other. We were going to be each other's reflection. And yeah, I forgot to mention that. And not only that, I started to notice how God was using music to minister to me when it came to this whole marriage journey and me and Brandon. He used a song titled Stuck on Stupid by Chris Brown, and he also used another song called No Exit by Chris Brown. And he was just using those songs, those lyrics to minister to me when it came to Brandon. That was something I forgot to mention back in 2020. So I just thought about it last week and I'm like, I need to share it with the people. So yeah. The third thing I forgot to mention that Caitlin, yeah, I forgot to talk about Caitlin, y'all. Caitlin was a makeup artist. I didn't talk about what she did professionally. But yeah, she was a makeup artist. She was also a social media influencer. I talked about it. She wasn't a big time social media influencer. I think when it came to her social media, it was more about people liking her content when it came to Lily and her, and then when she was married to her ex-husband, and then when she was with Brandon. Um, that's about it. She wasn't like a big time influencer. She did have ads on social media, and stuff like that that she would promote, but I feel like the bulk of her social media content was just pictures of her, Lily, and then when she was with, her ex-husband and Brandon back in 2016. So I'm thinking also too, since Brandon came back into the picture, she probably would post way more pictures of her and Brandon and Lily as well. The fourth thing I forgot to talk about, back in 2020, this was the beginning of lockdown when I was living with Ruth. I started watching Tony Gaskins on YouTube. So if you don't know who Tony Gaskins is, he's a life coach, relationship coach. So I started watching his videos, and the reason why I was watching his videos was because I wanted to learn more about Brandon. So in order for me to learn more about Brandon, I have to learn more about men. Now I do have brothers, and I did have my dad, but I felt like listening to a relationship coach or a life coach talk about men was something that I needed to do, being that I did not know Brandon at all. So I just thought it was something that was interesting. I learned a lot watching his videos. I learned a lot about men that I didn't know before. Um, I will say this, the way he talked about men, it was very interesting. Um, my perspective or my takeaway from it was that you got to be careful. You got to be careful. It kind of sounded like men were just very, very dangerous people. You just have to be careful with. That was my takeaway at the time, but it was very interesting, watching his videos and his take about relationships, and it was just very interesting. Another thing I forgot to mention was that back when I was living at Douglas, I had a dream. Had a dream one day. This was probably like 2 weeks before I left, sometime in like the third week of January. I had a dream that I was somewhere. I was somewhere, and there was this guy who was short, probably shorter than me. I'm 5'5", so the guy was probably like 5'3" or 5'2". This very short guy was looking at me, and he was smiling. And I was just like, why is this guy staring at me, and why is he smiling? So he just kept on looking at me, he kept on smiling. I was getting weirded out in the dream. Eventually, this guy comes to me and he says to me, April 13. And as he's saying April 13, he's smiling. And I think the dream went to another scene, or that was the end of the dream. So I remember waking up in the middle of the night after that dream was over, and I was like, April 13, what's going on? Is there something happening on April 13? So that year in 2020, I was actually on the lookout thinking something was happening on April 13. Nothing happened back then in 2020. Nothing happened April 13, 2021 as well. But I do think it was very important for me to talk about this dream because later on I kind of get an idea as to why I had that dream. So yeah. And I think that is it. So yeah, if there's anything else I do remember that I do forget to mention, I'll probably make a separate episode again. But that's pretty much it. So in the next episode, I'm going to talk about the month of June. That was very interesting, y'all. June was the month that marked 3 years that I knew about Brandon. So yeah, if you're liking an unlikely story, please like, comment, subscribe, share my video, and also please click the notification bell. And until next time, y'all. Bye.